The scrape of shoes against the polished marble echoed faintly through the courthouse. The morning air inside was heavy with tension, as though justice itself held its breath. Two uniformed officers leaned near the entrance, trading jokes too loud for the setting. Their eyes locked on a black woman sitting quietly on a bench. She wore no robe, no badge, just a plain navy suit with a leather satchel on her lap. To them, she was nobody. They approached her like predators circling easy prey. "You lost, ma'am?" one asked, voice laced with mockery. She looked up, calm, steady. "No, I know exactly where I am." The second officer smirked. "You're in court. You wait till you're called. Sit still and don't run your mouth." Her gaze returned to the courtroom doors, unbothered. But their amusement soured at her composure. Minutes passed. When she rose to stretch, one officer stepped into her space. "Sit back down. Don't make me tell you again." She frowned. "You're out of line, officer." The words stung his pride. His partner chuckled, egging him on. In a flash of arrogance, he raised his hand. Crack! The slap rang through the corridor. The woman's head turned sharply, but her body did not falter. Gasps erupted from bystanders. A clerk rushed forward. "Officer! What are you—" "Stay out of it!" the officer barked, puffed up with false authority. The woman touched her cheek lightly, then lowered her hand. Her eyes held no tears, no fear. Only patience, like a storm deciding when to break. Moments later, the bailiff opened the doors. "All rise. Court is now in session." Everyone filed inside. The officers smirked, satisfied they had reminded someone of her place. But when the clerk called, "The Honorable Judge Alexandra Cole presiding?" the room shifted. The woman they had slapped walked calmly to the front, ascended the steps, and took her seat behind the bench. The officers' faces drained of color. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like and subscribe because the best part is just about to begin. The gavel struck once. Bang. "Court is now in session," Judge Cole said evenly, her voice carrying through the stunned silence. Every eye in the chamber stayed on her cheek, where the faint red mark still glowed. The two officers shifted uncomfortably at the defense table, whispering harshly to each other. Judge Cole glanced toward the clerk. "Before we begin today's docket, let the record show that this court witnessed misconduct by two officers of the law moments before proceedings." The clerk's pen scratched furiously across the page. One officer stammered, "Your Honor, we didn't—" "Silence," she said, the single word slicing the air sharper than any shout. "You will have your chance to speak. For now, you will remain seated." Gasps fluttered through the gallery. Defendants who only minutes earlier had feared judgment now stared at her with wide, incredulous eyes. The balance of power had flipped entirely. Judge Cole continued, calm as ever. "This court is sworn to uphold justice, not ego. When officers forget the difference, the law must remind them." She motioned to the bailiffs. "Take Officers Randall and Price into custody for assault and contempt of court." The room erupted. Lawyers whispered furiously. Reporters scribbled like mad. And the defendants, men and women who had known the sting of disrespect too many times, sat straighter. Their faces lit with something rare in a courtroom: hope. The officers protested as handcuffs closed around their wrists. "This is a mistake. She provoked us." Judge Cole leaned forward, her expression still unshaken. "The mistake was assuming authority grants you the right to abuse. It does not here, not ever." Silence fell again, thick and reverent. The rest of the docket proceeded, but no one forgot what they had seen. By the time recess came, the corridors buzzed with whispers. A judge had been struck, and instead of lashing out, she had waited until her authority was undeniable, then let justice speak for itself. That evening, the story had already spread beyond the courthouse walls. Headlines blazed across news sites. "Officers arrested after striking. Judge they mistook for defendant," clips of the stunned courtroom circulated online. Some voices were outraged, others triumphant. But all agreed. Nothing like this had ever happened before. Judge Cole sat alone in her chambers, the gavel resting quietly at her side. She traced the faint mark on her cheek, now fading. It didn't sting anymore. Her phone buzzed with messages, colleagues offering support, activists calling her a hero, journalists begging for interviews. She ignored them all. Because to her, the real victory wasn't the viral headlines. It was the silence she had commanded in that courtroom, the moment when arrogance had crumbled under truth. She thought of the countless defendants who had stood where she sat, powerless under the weight of assumptions. She thought of the officers who had believed their badge excused cruelty. And she thought of every young black woman who would see this story and realize dignity can be power, restraint can be thunder, and sometimes the calmest voice in the room is the one that ends the storm. Judge Cole leaned back, closing her eyes. Tomorrow there would be more trials, more battles. But tonight, justice had spoken, not in anger, not in violence, but in undeniable truth. And the officers who had slapped her? They would stand trial not as enforcers of law, but as men stripped of their illusion of power. The scrape of shoes in a courthouse would never sound the same again.